Do you remember the days when taking photos meant buying a roll of film and being careful not to waste a single shot? The thrill of snapping family vacations or birthday parties on a Kodak camera and then rushing to the local photo shop, eagerly waiting for your prints, was a feeling today's instant gratification world rarely replicates. Back then, those Kodak moments were precious, and Kodak was everywhere. The iconic yellow film boxes, the catchy slogan, "You press the button, we do the rest," and the anticipation of seeing your memories preserved on glossy paper-defined photography for generations. At its peak, Kodak wasn't just a company. It was a cultural phenomenon, synonymous with photography itself. From family photo albums to the movies we watched on film, Kodak's products touched millions of lives. Yet today, in the era of digital cameras and smartphones, the Kodak name has largely faded from view, becoming a cautionary tale in business textbooks. How did a company that once owned the moment lose it all, almost in a flash? It's time to rewind the reel on Kodak's rise and heartbreaking fall, and find out what went wrong. Introducing the first Kodak camera, a simple box camera preloaded with a 100 exposure roll of film. His slogan, "You press the button, we do the rest," was not just marketing, it described the magic he offered. Customers would take their pictures, mail the entire camera back to the company, and receive their developed photos along with a freshly loaded camera. This innovation meant anyone could take photographs without needing a darkroom or technical expertise. Photography was no longer just the realm of professionals with bulky equipment. Eastman Kodak had made it accessible to the masses. Under Eastman's leadership, Kodak grew explosively. By 1892, the Eastman Kodak Company was incorporated, and it quickly became the world's leading film and camera maker. Early Kodak models, like the Brownie camera, introduced in 1900 at the price of just $1, brought picture-taking to everyday people and even children. Eastman astutely used a razor and blades strategy, selling cameras cheaply and making big profits on the film and processing. Every snapshot taken meant more Kodak film to be sold and developed, and that translated into steady cash flow. Throughout the early 20th century, Kodak continued to innovate and dominate. They pioneered color film. Kodachrome became legendary, supplied film to Hollywood, and embedded themselves in the fabric of American life. The phrase Kodak moment entered the lexicon to describe any precious memory worth preserving. By building an empire on helping people capture memories, Kodak didn't just sell photography products, it sold the gift of nostalgia. By the mid-20th century and into the 1980s, Kodak stood at the very pinnacle of the photography world. The company controlled as much as 70% to 90% of the film market in the United States during its golden years. In practical terms, this meant that almost every photo taken, from grandparents' wedding portraits to countless vacation snapshots, likely involved Kodak film or cameras. The brand's ubiquity was unmatched. Those bright yellow Kodak film boxes could be found in every drugstore, photo lab, and supermarket, and Kodak's products were a fixture in households worldwide. Kodak wasn't just economically dominant. It was woven into pop culture. Their advertising coined the term Kodak moment, encouraging people to think of life's special occasions as moments to capture on film. Picking up a pack of newly developed photos was a universal experience. You might flip through prints of a child's first bike ride or a high school graduation, each bearing the Kodak logo on the back. In the 1960s, the company sold tens of millions of easy-to-use Instamatic cameras, putting simple photography in the hands of everyday consumers. By the 1990s, Kodak employed well over 100,000 people worldwide and was earning nearly $16 billion in annual revenue at its peak. The corporate headquarters in Rochester sprawled so large it even had its own zip code, a testament to Kodak's massive presence. For a century, Kodak was virtually synonymous with photography and memories. But as everyone was smiling for the camera, a new technology was quietly emerging, one that would soon turn Kodak's dominance into a case of catastrophic overexposure. So, what went wrong for this film titan? In a word, digital. Ironically, Kodak's downfall wasn't due to someone else inventing a new technology that caught them off guard. Kodak itself played a part in creating the very digital photography revolution that would later destroy its film business. Way back in 1975, a Kodak engineer named Steve Sasson developed the world's first handheld digital camera, a crude prototype recording images onto a cassette tape. This could have been the spark of a new era, but when Sasson presented his invention, Kodak's management infamously brushed it aside. The company was making so much money from film at the time, with profit margins around 70% on film sales, that the idea of a filmless camera seemed more a threat than an opportunity. In Sasson's own words, it was filmless photography, so management's reaction was, "That's cute, but don't tell anyone about it." Kodak feared cannibalizing its lucrative film business, so it kept digital technology on the back burner. Throughout the 1980s and the 1990s, competitors like Sony, Canon, and Fujifilm started pushing digital imaging and cheaper film. Kodak, meanwhile, remained largely film-centric. They did make some moves, investing in digital R&D and even launching the photo CD in the early 90s, but they were slow and reluctant. Internally, a mindset had set in. Why mess with success? Kodak was still enjoying record revenues in the early 90s, and film sales were actually growing for a time, masking the warning signs. In 1996, Kodak hit a revenue peak of nearly $16 billion from its film and photo businesses. It seemed the good times might never end, but technology doesn't wait. By the late 1990s, digital cameras started improving and dropping in price. Consumers were slowly realizing they could take pictures without film, and without the ongoing cost of buying film rolls and paying for development. Kodak's leadership, however, hesitated to fully embrace digital's potential. When online photo sharing and social media arrived, think early 2000s with sites like Flickr, or the rise of Facebook, Kodak missed those trends too, focusing instead on printing at home and other traditional strengths. A telling misstep. Kodak bought an early photo-sharing website called oPhoto in 2001, but instead of leveraging it as the next big thing in online photo sharing, they used it merely as a way to boost printing photos digitally, a very 20th century mindset in the 21st century. Meanwhile, Fujifilm, Kodak's longtime rival, was aggressively competing with lower-priced film and adapting by diversifying into other imaging and tech fields. And then came the one-two punch that sealed Kodak's fate. Standalone digital cameras became mainstream, and soon after, smartphones put decent cameras into everyone's pocket. People no longer needed to carry a separate camera, and crucially, they no longer needed film or printing. The cornerstone of Kodak's profit center simply evaporated over a few short years. By 2003 and 2005, digital camera sales had overtaken film cameras completely, and Kodak actually did manage to become a top seller of digital cameras in the US. For a brief moment, but selling hardware like digital cameras was a far less profitable game. Margins were thin, competition was fierce, and Kodak's late entry meant they couldn't dominate as they had with film. In fact, by 2007, Kodak's share of the digital camera market was sinking fast, and even those digital cameras were themselves about to be undercut by camera phones. And Kodak's late entry meant they couldn't dominate as they had with film. In fact, by 2007, Kodak's share of the digital camera market was sinking fast, and even those digital cameras were themselves about to be undercut by camera phones. The financial hit was devastating. Kodak's revenues fell off a cliff as film sales plummeted in the 2000s, dropping from that nearly $16 billion peak in 1996 down to about $6 billion by 2010. The company was forced to undertake massive layoffs and cost-cutting, Between 2004 and 2007 alone, Kodak shuttered 13 film plants and 130 photo labs, laying off 50,000 employees in the process. Entire divisions that once proudly produced film, paper, and chemicals were dismantled. Decades of wealth in the form of patents were auctioned off to raise cash. By January 2012, the inevitable happened. Kodak filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, unable to pay its debts amid the digital onslaught. One of the most tragic aspects of Kodak's fall is that it wasn't due to lack of innovation. It was due to a reluctance to let innovation flourish. The company had the talent and technology to lead the digital revolution, but its culture and business model were so tied to the past that it couldn't reinvent itself in time. The lesson learned: adapt or perish. No empire, no matter how dominant, can afford to ignore disruptive technology. Kodak's story is a powerful reminder that success can breed complacency, and anticipating consumers' changing habits is vital. As one expert succinctly put it, Kodak thought it was in the film business, but really, it was in the memory business, and memories didn't die the way film did. Although Kodak as an icon of the film age has largely faded, its legacy endures in surprising ways. The company emerged from bankruptcy in 2013 as a much smaller entity, shifting focus to commercial printing and imaging services. A version of Kodak still produces film, yes, actual photographic film, on a limited scale for enthusiasts and Hollywood directors who swear by the look of celluloid. In fact, the last lab processing Kodachrome slides became a news story in 2010, marking the end of an era for the beloved color film. And of course, the term Kodak moment remains part of our language, a nostalgic nod to the time when capturing a memory meant pressing a shutter and waiting to see the results. For many of us, the warm hues of an old family photo or the sound of a film winding in a camera can instantly bring back simpler times. Kodak helped create those memories. Its rise and fall is more than a business case study. It's a human story of innovation, nostalgia, missed opportunities, and changing times. So, did you ever use a Kodak camera or film? Do you remember the joy of opening a freshly developed pack of photos, or the frustration of a photo that didn't come out quite right? Share your Kodak memories in the comments below. We'd love to hear your stories of captured moments. And don't forget to subscribe for more blasts from the past. Every week, we'll rewind time to explore the rise and fall of the icons that shaped our world.